1874 Preview Show.
Good evening and welcome to 1874. It's time for a match preview show as Villa take on AZ Alkmaar on Thursday night, and I'm delighted to be joined by Jacob Tanswell, the Aston Villa writer for The Athletic, this fine evening, having just watched Manchester United lose to FC Copenhagen on television. Jacob, how are you?
Doing very well, thank you. It's been a while since I've been on it.
Yeah, it has. I feel like you've got a grievance with me. I felt like you were saying that as if
No.
Not intentional. Not intentional at all. To be fair, been a bit lax with the previews for the midweek European games, but enjoyed the last one so much. You obviously went to Alkmaar. It feels a little bit like the return leg, this one, even though it's part of a group phase, but it's still a game Villa probably need to win because that group is pretty tight, Jacob.
Yeah, it is. And John McGinn alluded to it earlier today in the press conference. I think even though Villa won comfortably on the scoreline, they did have a few issues. I think Villa were very clinical on the day, but I think in that, what we've seen from the first 3 games is that everything seems quite tight, and it seems like fine margins do decide games, even though if Villa have got discernibly the more quality in that group. So yeah, they need to win tomorrow. It's a game they have to win purely because of the leggy teething issues. But I'm sure they will, especially at Villa Park.
Yeah, so were you at the press conference today? Good prep from me not to find this out before we came on the show. How was the mood in the press conference?
It was good. John McGinn wasn't there for too long because Unai was waiting backstage, and when Unai's waiting, you kind of got to hurry up. He doesn't like to hang around for too long. So John was in and out, nice and swift, but he's one of the more interesting, one of the more frank players that is when he's speaking publicly. I think he's very good, and he was there for a little while, and then Unai comes in 25 minutes, and I'm seeing him more than my family at the moment, so it's always good to see a master of football and picking his brains.
Yeah, did he give any hints towards team selection? How strong do you think Villa will go?
It was funny actually because he doesn't really usually say much about team selection, but he actually said, for once, I've got a few decisions I've still got to make. Sometimes before games, he knows his team 7 days out, and then he can prepare on the grass, with the team structure, building the team shape. But he said, "I'll being honest, I'm going to probably sleep on it tonight. It's 1 or 2 areas that I'm not quite sure about in terms of getting the structure of the team and the combinations in certain positions. So I think he will go strong. I imagine there'll be 3 or 4 changes like he has done in the last couple. Like Longley, Tillemans coming in, those type of players." Just on the periphery, but probably good enough to start.
Quite a lot of people in the chat from what I can see. We've got Cami DZN and Cliffo players digging me out for me being out of hair and makeup, and also having some new headphones. So thank you for digging me out in the chat. You've got some praise, Jacob. I'm getting dug out more. You've got Richard Bambrick saying, great articles in The Athletic, Jacob. Refreshing to read. Consistently high-quality content on the Villa. Sans all the boring football cliches. So nice to see you getting some love in the chat.
Yeah, it's been really positive. I just think it's because Villa are winning, but it's always a really nice.
No, it's not. It's not because obviously the guy that wrote about Villa before you was a bit of a clown, and it's nice to have a proper writer in doing the Villa stuff now. Just back to the team selection. Chad, Villa Forever podcast, is talking about Youri Tillemans and how he played the advanced role in the last game against AZ Alkmaar. I've got to admit, I liked that because it felt like a way of getting him into the team, and he did kind of play as I hate saying this, a false 10. I think he will play somewhere, but do you think it will be that kind of same position again?
I think so. I do like that. Did you coin that phrase? Have you?
I said it on Twitter and got a bit of criticism for it, but I didn't know how else to. I didn't know how else to describe it.
No, I like it. I think I actually like him when Kamara and Douglas Luiz play with him, because I feel like obviously in the last couple of weeks, Emery's kind of settled in this build-up structure of Kamara in a back 3 in possession. And that means there's space in that double pivot with Douglas Luiz. I think in the Premier League, you see John McGinn do it, and then Zaniolo pushes a bit further forward. I think in the Conference League, you probably see Tillemans dropping in. So basically in possession, he's a centre midfielder. And then out of possession, I think something that Emery's probably working on is his pressing. And I think he worked his socks off in Alkmaar. He pressed from the front. It was kind of a 4-4-2, wasn't it, out of possession. And although he's not the most mobile or athletic, I think he's really starting to pick up the pressing triggers, and he's a winning runner. So yeah, I like to see that, and I hope to see Kamara and Douglas play as well.
Yeah, he was kind of interchanging with Leon Bailey in that game away at Alkmaar, and Bailey had a sensational game. Probably can count himself unlucky not to be in the team at the moment, Leon Bailey. But Greg and I were talking on Monday's podcast, kind of saying, with the way football is now in this starters and finishers trend, football's all about trends. There's always these different trends going on. Bailey at the moment seems like he's a finisher in that he's done well coming off the bench, and it's almost like Emery doesn't want to change that in the Premier League. I think I'm right in saying he's played every European game so far. So you'd expect to see him from the start of this one, because this is a chance to make a couple of changes. He might make more, but it's a chance to get people starts and get people minutes, and you'd expect Bailey to be one of them.
Yeah, I expect Leon Bailey to start. I think he absolutely hates being on the bench, to be honest with you. I think you speak to people around him and you speak to him and you speak to Unai. I think if it was up to him, he'd definitely prefers to be a starter than a finisher. But I think it goes back to how Emery wants to build the play up. And I think he's probably settled in his two fullbacks being the wingers in possession. You see it with Luca Dean and Matty Cash. And Leon Bailey's not Zaniolo. He can't really play in that number 10 role. So if Leon Bailey is going to come in, it'd probably be at the expense in the Premier League anyway of Matty Cash and putting Ezri Konsa to right back. So I can see why he's not really started. But in these Conference League games, I think he got the pace. He looks like he's developing his cutting edge, doesn't he? He's got that final game. He can go on the outside as well. He's starting to use his right foot a little bit more. So I think he just keeps developing. And if he keeps putting in these performances, eventually at some point, I think he's probably bringing down the neck of Zaniolo until Jacob Ramsey comes back.
So interesting what you say, because on the face of it, probably a year ago, if you said it, I'd have thought, what's he going on about? Matty Cash and Bailey can't play. I was like, play together. I'd be like, Matty Cash is playing right back. But you're talking about for Bailey to play, Konsa has to play right back, and it is all to do with that build-up structure and how Villa are building up from the back. But it is interchangeable, isn't it? Because Kamara's been dropping into the back three in the last few weeks. That isn't something we've done loads of. So at some point, Emery will move probably away from that. But I get your point that to have Bailey in the team, kind of because of how advanced Cash has been, they're kind of in each other's way. So it does require changes. And people are asking about Carlos. Sean Guest said, "Does Carlos start tomorrow again?" He's in the main started the European game, so that does happen. Actually, Konsa at right back will probably be something that we see.
Yeah, exactly. And you look at it, people always say, like, why is Zaniolo playing instead of Leon Bailey? And it's because he needs to make sure there's certain players that suit certain positions. And that's what he alluded to today about the combinations and getting the right structure. With Kamara drops into the back three, you need two centre midfielders, and that in the Premier League's been McGinn and Douglas Luiz. But then you need someone in the number 10 position, and it's going to be Zaniolo. Leon Bailey can't play centrally. He has to play on the wing. And then if he plays on the wing, like you say, where's Matty Cash going to be? So it's just all these little pieces of the jigsaw you've got to fit together. So it's not just as easy as just saying, Leon Bailey, you come in for Zaniolo, because it has such a big effect on the structure of the team. And Emery's this holistic coach, isn't he? So he will work this out and take everything into account.
Yeah, it's really, really, really fun. I do find all this stuff fascinating, because I've just feel like I watch football in a completely different way now to how I ever used to watch it before. I think Unai Emery coming in actually done me a favour in my general life and my general work, because I just feel like I watch football in a completely different way now. And I've just realised my microphone's not plugged in, so that's not a great start. No, I'm going to plug that in. Microphone's in now. You may have even lost me. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, all good.
Yep. Excellent stuff. Producer lady didn't want to pick me up on the fact that my microphone wasn't plugged in. There was no complaints about my audio in the chat, though. I'll probably find that people are complaining now that I've actually plugged the right thing. I've completely forgotten where I am now. Oh, I've remembered. I was going to ask you about Luca Dean, because out of all the outfield players, probably him and McGinn feel like the two that don't ever really get a rest. But with Moreno being back on the bench at the weekend, do you think there's a chance he might get a start or see some minutes? Because I love Moreno. I really want to see him back in competing, because Luca Dean's done well in the main, in fairness. But it would be nice to see. It'd be nice to see Moreno back in getting minutes.
Yeah, Emery said today that he wants Moreno to get some minutes eventually, or in the coming weeks. So I think just before the international break, if he can get half an hour just about in this game or the game on Sunday, I think it's perfect. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Moreno. Obviously, I haven't seen him in the flesh as regularly as you guys. So, and he offers a different type of left back, doesn't he? Luca Dean, more of a touch it, cross, get the ball at the feet, cross it, where Moreno is a bit more dynamic. So I would be surprised if he started, but I wouldn't be surprised if he comes on in the second half. In the previous home Conference League games, Emery said afterwards that he's had these pre-planned substitutions before games. McGinn played left back, didn't he, against Mostar, and then got subs at half time. So I wouldn't be surprised if he comes on second half or plays a half at all.
So it was Everton. I thought that happened. Was it Everton?
Everton, of course,
Or was it
yes.
Everton? Come on,
McGinn played
Jake.
left back. Sorry.
Everyone praising you.
Yeah,
I have to pick you
I
up on
slipped.
mistake. Just to give everyone a mic update, whilst Jacob was talking, I hadn't changed the setting across to the mic, so now I am on the right setting, and I'm being told in my ear that my audio is a lot better.
It's lovely and crisp. Lovely.
Sorry, AVFC, the guy that fell asleep in our podcast a couple of months ago. He's put that it sounds better now, so now I've got AVFC's approval. I feel like I can continue with this show. Let's talk about Alkmaar a little bit then. They had a really strong home record. I thought that game would be tough. Villa made quite light work of it, were pretty clinical. They'll bring a lot of fans. I imagine the town centre will be absolutely heaving tomorrow with Alkmaar fans, and they will bring an atmosphere with them to this game. What do you think it will be a similar type of game, or do you think this one will be a bit tighter?
I hope Alkmaar bring a bit more in the opening stages of the game. I expected, being there, I expected it to be not as loud as intimidating as Legia, but something close to it. Make it difficult, get in your faces. But I just thought, you saw in the first couple of minutes when Emi Martinez stood on the ball for what seemed like an hour and they weren't pressing. I just thought it just feels a bit soft. Like the crowd wasn't really involved. I do think they'll come. They'll be better for the experience in the first game. And their manager's been linked to a number of clubs in England and in Scotland, and he's very highly rated. Emery rates him highly as well. So I like to think that they're going to come here with a game plan that's going to frustrate Villa, and it's up to Villa to break them down. But as I said, even when they're 4-0 up the other day, Villa. Alkmaar still caused a few scares. It was just the fact that they were so clinical, Villa, that they managed to put the game beyond reach with half an hour to go. So I do expect a better showing from Alkmaar, and this is a game where they have to get something from it as well, because everything's so tight around there.
I imagine this will be a different type of game as well to the Mostar game that was at Villa Park. I found the game quite amusing in some way, just because Villa was so on top, but they just couldn't seem to score. But I always felt that they would score in that game. And obviously, Villa Park is full every week in the Premier League. It wasn't as full in the European game. I do think this one will be a bit fuller, just because it's the nature of a bigger team playing. But do you think Villa have adapted? I think Villa have adapted well to the Thursday, Sunday kind of thing. But do you think they've now adapted to playing European games? Because it did feel like the Hibs game I don't really class, because that's against British opposition playing those first two games. But they lost in Poland. They kind of toiled through the second game and just about got a 1-0. The third game against Alkmaar felt like a complete performance, really a clinical performance. Do you think they kind of get what Europe's all about now in terms of the actual games themselves?
Yeah, I think they got the intensity right in Alkmaar. They played with a bit more purpose. I think in the second game it was quite passive, quite easy, and they basically lowered the tempo for it. And the first game, I think, if you speak to the players and speak to Emery, they weren't prepared at all for it from the minute they landed. It was all very rushed. The preparation was rushed. Never really got to see Poland. It was just a whistle stop tour, and they weren't prepared for the atmosphere or the occasion. But I do feel that they've become quite acclimatized to it. I don't know if this is just a theory of mine, but I do feel towards the end of a period before an international break, Villa don't look quite at the sharpest. They tend to rejuvenate up post international break. But yeah, like you say, I think they've managed to do the Thursday, Sunday quite well. Matty Cash, I was speaking to him last week after the game at Luton, and he said he feels terrible when there's a week between games.
It's weird, that, isn't it?
Yeah, he said his legs feel heavy, and he just wants that rhythm, really. So yeah, if Matty Cash is the same for all the other players, then that's probably quite a good thing for Emery.
Yeah, I guess, defeat to Forest, we were talking before we came on, and someone said it in the chat actually as well, that Forest have only lost to Manchester City and Liverpool this calendar year. So the City ground is a real tough place to go. Villa went there and lost. I don't think Villa were terrible, but just didn't really create anything and let in goals at bad times. Good chance to bounce back now with two home games, one in Europe, one in the Premier League, isn't it?
Yes, it's. I think Villa have had quite a favourable run, haven't they? And they've taken their chance, really. Apart from, they've been really ruthless at home. You just feel like there's an inevitability at home now, where there's such confidence in the players. There's certainly more confidence at home than away, which obviously is usual and part of the course. But it just feels like at Villa Park, no, they're going to, team's going to score. They're going to be on top. They can weather storms very well. They're very experienced now, these players. And obviously on Sunday as well, it's a short turnaround. Fulham's probably the type of team that Villa will probably want. They quite comfortable in blowing those teams away or being quite comfortable against those teams. So yeah, if they win these next two, then Forest just a blip. Like even Wolves was, it was a draw, but then they bounced back straight away, and actually it looks quite good in hindsight at the point. So yeah, I think it's a perfect opportunity, and the fixture list's been really good, and they're making the most of it.
Yeah, not been doing score predictions on the preview shows, but as we lost, I'll bring the score predictions back. What do you think the score will be tomorrow night?
I think it'll be 3-0. I can see Villa scoring early, and then they'll dominate the second half, and they'll pick Alkmaar off on the counter towards the end.
Okay, I'm going to go for 2-1 to Villa. I think Villa will go 2-0 up, but we just can't seem to keep a clean sheet at the moment to save our lives. Yeah, the clean sheet just won't come at all. So yeah, I'm going to go 2-1 to Aston Villa Football Club. Thank you to Jacob for joining me. That does us for this preview on the 1874 show. Really appreciate those that have joined us live in the chat, even those that have slagged me off for my sound, my headphones, my hair and makeup, everything that I've been slagged off for. But thank you very much for joining in the chat, and thank you to those that will go on and watch the video or listen to the audio version of this show as well. Thank you very much to Lee for producing. I'll be at Villa Park tomorrow night. If you see me, come and say hello. Always enjoy having a chat. And yeah, there'll be a preview show for the Fulham game either on Friday or Saturday, so watch out for that, and we'll cover the Alkmaar game within that, David Reed and myself. I was about to say have a good rest of your Wednesday evening, but it's 10:30. I imagine most people are going to bed, so sleep nice and soundly, and we will see you after the Alkmaar game. Up the Villa.